Hi, I am Soumya from Class 12 Commerce of the Higher End School. I am here to present my project on topic Poverty in India. Meaning of poverty and its categories. Poverty is the inability to secure minimum human needs such as food, clothing, housing, education and health. When a person is unable to fulfill these basic needs, it leads to pain and distress. Basically, the poor are people who reside in kacha hutments with wall made of baked mud and roof made of bamboo, grass, and wood. They are illiterate with low skills and possess few assets for their day-to-day requirements. There are three categories under poverty: chronic poor, transient poor, and non poor. Chronic poor, people who always remain poor or usually poor but sometimes have a little more money are grouped together. Transient poor. Under transient poor, we have three subtopics. They are churning poor, occasionally poor, and churning and occasionally poor. Churning poor. People who regularly move in and out of poverty, such as small farmers and seasonal workers. Occasionally poor. People who are rich most of the time but many times have a patch of bad luck, such as people who gamble. Churning and occasionally poor grouped together known as transient poor. The next one is non-poor. People who are never poor and can be categorized as not so poor. Middle class, upper middle class, rich, very rich, millionaires and billionaires. Poverty line. Dadabhai Navroji was the first person to highlight the concept of poverty line. The poverty line refers to a cutoff point which divides people of a region as poor and non-poor. Methods to determine the poverty line are many. The monetary value, that is per capita expenditure, is one such method. Here, the minimum calorie intake is estimated as 2400 calorie for a rural person and 2100 for an urban person. Reason for calorie-based norm insufficient to identify the poor. Does not differentiate between the very poor and other kind of poor because it groups all the poor together. Considers the expenditure on food and other selective items such as alternative for income without any concrete base for measurement of poverty. Difficult to identify who among the poor really requires the most assistance. Does not take into account important factors associated with poverty such as access to education, health and water. Does not take into account social factors responsible for people living in poverty. Poverty trend in India. Poverty in India is estimated by a planning commission on basis of consumption expenditure data collected by the National Sample Survey Organization. About 55% of total population was below the poverty line in 1973 to 74, and it was declined to 22% in 2011 to 12. The state level trend shows that Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, West Bengal, Bihar, Odisha accounted for about 70% of Indian poor. The above table clearly indicates that over the year, rural poverty has declined from 56% to 26%, while urban poverty has declined from 49% to 15%. So, decline in poverty level is more in rural area than in urban area. Rural people migrate to urban area in search of job but are not able to find job which provide an income beyond subsistence. Hence, this adds to percentage of population living below the poverty line in urban areas. Causes of poverty. The causes of poverty are varied in nature. They are grouped as economic cause, social cultural cause, political and administrative causes. First cause is inequality in distribution of income and wealth. During the planned periods, the national income of India has been increasing, but it has not been distributed properly among different sections of people. Majority of income of the economy has been enjoyed by the rich. This inequality in the distribution of wealth and income has worsened the problem of poverty in India. Underdevelopment of an economy. Physical and natural resources are underutilized because of lack of technology, capital, and entrepreneurial ability. Therefore, the productive capacity and gross domestic product of the economy are low. Primitive technology of production occurs in the agriculture sector. They lack irrigation facilities, fertilizers, and high-yielding variety of seeds. This backwardness in agriculture has given rise to rural poverty. Indebtedness. Poor people take loan from the rich section of society to meet their basic needs. In return, they pay a high rate of interest from the amount borrowed from moneylenders. Moneylenders exploit them, and they thus live below the poverty line from one generation to another. Price inflation. Upward trends in the consumer index during the planned period led to fall in the real income of fixed and low income earners. Inflation decreases the purchasing power and hence there is a low standard of living and a high incidence of poverty. High rate of population growth. Because of an increase in population, the dependency burden has increased. Hence, the provision for the minimum need becomes a crucial problem. The high growth rate of population also signifies lower availability of health facilities and other amenity and therefore a lower standard of living. Unemployment. The poverty level increased with the rise in number of unemployed. Because of unemployment, the number of dependents on the employed population increases. This results in decline in consumption expenditure per head and a majority of people are living in poverty. Illiteracy. Because of lack of literacy, Indian farmers fail to learn new methods of cultivation or adopt new tools for production. Also, village moneylenders succeed in cheating them more easily. On the other hand, urban people are employed as unskilled workers and receive very low wage in return. They mostly live in slum and lead to a miserable life. Social causes. Many social factors such as caste systems, religious faiths and beliefs and joint family system have hindered the process of economic growth. Political causes. Policies of colonial government have ruined traditional handicrafts and discouraged the development of textile industries. Even after independence, the government failed to protect the interest of the poor. The three dimensions of government approach to reduce poverty. They are economic growth oriented approach, specific poverty alleviation program, providing minimum basic amenity of the poor. Now we'll see the poverty alleviation programs. First is Prime Minister Rozgar Yojana. It provides financial assistance to set up any kind of enterprise. It generates employment opportunity to the educated and unemployed from low income families in rural and urban areas. Rural Employment Generation Program. It is implemented through the Khadi and Village Industries Commission to assist eligible entrepreneurs to set up village industry units. Create employment opportunity in village including small towns with a population up to 20,000. Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. In this scheme, the state government provides at least 100 days of guaranteed wage employment in every financial year to every household whose adult members volunteer to do unskilled manual work. If work is not provided within a 15-day period, then the applicant is eligible for unemployment allowance by the state governments. Swarna Jayanti Gram Swarozgar Yojana. This was launched in 2000 to reduce the level of poverty in India. The central government provides financial assistance to the state of fulfillment of necessities such as primary health and education. It also aimed to provide clean drinking water in rural area and to provide shelter to the poor. A critical assessment on poverty alleviation programs. Due to unequal distribution of land and other assets, the benefit from alleviation programs has been appropriated by non-poor. Compared to magnitude of poverty, the amount of resources allocated for these resources is insufficient. Resources are inefficiently used and waste because the official involved in an implementation of programs were ill-motivated, inadequately trained, corrupt and vulnerable to pressure from variety of local entities. Government policies have also failed to address the vast majority of vulnerable people who are living on or just above the poverty line. Here are some important questions with answers. Here is the poverty cycle. The child grows up in poverty, is significantly disadvantaged in education and skill, struggles to get a job, fail to escape the poverty cycle, family in poverty, and this cycle goes on like that. So I conclude my project telling that though India shows a high economic growth, it is shameful that there is still large scale poverty in India. India has the world's largest number of poor people living in single country.